If Jeff Molson ever decides to find himself a new general manager, how important is it that he speaks French? That and more on this week's edition of Hockey Inside Out. Welcome to this week's show. I'm Adam Susser, and joining me today is Stu Cowan, CBC Daybreak's Jessica Rusnak, and Mr. Chris Nilan sitting here right beside me. Here's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. Number one, do you think Jeff Molson would ever consider hiring a GM who wasn't bilingual? Number two, how do you explain no one on the Canadiens standing up for Paul Byron after Tuesday night's dirty hit from behind? Number three, is there a quick fix to get the Canadiens en route to a Stanley Cup, or will they be circling the NHL drain for the next few seasons? Number four, Carey Price had been at his best all season. Would the Habs be in the running for a playoff berth? And number five, if you were the GM of the Canadiens, what would your first move be as part of a rebuild? Let's start the show. In case you haven't heard, language in Quebec is kind of a big deal, and so is winning at hockey. The most storied franchise in hockey history, it would seem strange, even to this Anglophone, to have a Montreal Canadiens organization that was run by someone who does not speak French. Considering how this season is going, the last thing Jeff Molson wants to do right now is upset the local fan base even more. But if he found a potential GM who could bring the Canadiens closer to hoisting their 25th Stanley Cup, would it matter to Montrealers if this GM couldn't speak French? Do you think Jeff Molson would ever consider hiring a general manager who wasn't bilingual?
No. No. It just won't happen. As long as Jeff Molson, cause is owning this hockey club, he won't do it. I don't see it happening. I look at some of the guys that probably could come in here and do the job, and it's a shame that stands in the way. It takes certain guys out of the running, and I think it hurts the franchise.
Well, Jeff Molson's second business is the Canadiens. His first business is selling beer, and as Chris said, the worry of a boycott. Remember when Randy Cunningworth was coach, the unilingual anglophone coach, and there was people saying they weren't going to buy Molson beer anymore. They're going to boycott the beer.
There was a protest outside the Bell
That's right.
Center.
So it's a business. And Jeff Molson's running.
The protests too, right? People, they came in from, I think, Shabugamu or something. Those people that came really never go to the games.
But they watch on TV and they buy Molson beer, and that's what's important for Jeff Molson. He's a businessman, and it's not just hockey with his business. It's hockey and selling beer, and I just don't think he can do it. And plus, I think he feels it's important to have a GM and a coach who can communicate with the fan base. 80% of their fan base is French. And some people say, oh, it's a French media. It's not the French media. All the guys in the French media are perfectly bilingual. They have to be able to do their job because most of the players only speak English. It's the fan base that Jeff Molson figures, 80% or whatever of his fans speak French. And I think he thinks it's important to have a GM and a coach who can speak to those fans in their own language.
And what's so unique about the Montreal Canadiens is they're the only NHL team that is so tied with politics that you go to any other market, politics don't involve hiring, coaches or GMs, but here that's what it is, and that's the reality, and that's the world that we live in, and the GM does have to be bilingual. And I think if I'm someone out there who might be wanting to be a future GM of a team, why not pick up a few French classes? They don't have to be perfectly bilingual. Look at Bob Gainey. He learned how to speak French. His French was not perfect, but it was great for him to learn it, and he was able to communicate with the media. So if you have a guy that's able to do that, then he would be in the running for a position with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the Habs are so entwined to the history and the culture of Montreal and Quebec. If 90-something percent or 80-something percent of the whole population of the fan base speaks French, you kind of need someone to communicate to that fan base in their language. Speaking of hockey, since this is a hockey show, Tuesday night's 3-1 loss against St. Louis, Colton Parayko came from behind, had a dirty come-from-behind check on Paul Byron. No one on the ice with the Habs or afterwards did anything about it. How do you explain that lack of fight in the team?
Because this guy's sitting here instead of on the Canadiens bench.
Where were you, Mr. Nyland?
Asleep.
I honestly think this team has given up now. I mean, Claude Julien was asked after the game in Boston if the players thrown in the towel yet, and he said, well, you have to ask them, which was sort of a sign that maybe he thinks they have, and I think that was just a sign. I think they've given up. I think that they're frustrated. There's not enough talent on this team. They're looking around the bench and seeing that they don't have enough talent to win, and Claude Julien is getting frustrated also.
How it's done was what Chara did last night in Boston. Backus got hit. Yeah, it was a clean check. He had his head down. He got hit. Chara come up and the next shift, boom, he laid it on someone. Getzlaf come after him. He give it to Getzlaf. That's how you do it. You demand and you command respect. That's what he did. What happened with Byron, we've seen it all too many times here. Guys get hit. No one ever does nothing. That part of the game is gone. There's still a few guys around that will come to the aid of teammates. And I kind of agree with you as far as throwing the towel in. I saw last night Jonathan Drouin take a shot that was blocked by the defenseman Bomeister. And instead to stop on the puck and try and fight for it, he slumped his shoulders, put his head down, and kept going back behind the net. When he could have stopped on it, maybe took it away from him and created something. To me, that there's no fight. There's no heart. The heart is, Gallagher, but he can't do it all by himself.
It's sort of ironic because Byron's one of the guys who would have come to the defense of a teammate. As small as he is, he never backs down from anybody, that guy.
And also, if you listen to the post-game comments, it was so depressing. You know, everyone, I feel like each one of the players was like they just lost the Stanley Cup in Game 7, the way that they were answering the questions and just feeling, so lost. And, Max Pacioretty said he has no answers. But to go back to the Paul Byron part there, the Canadiens have been like this for a long time. We've seen this so many times that a player got hit and then no one on the ice has come to the defense of the teammate. They tried to sort of become a little bit of a tougher team when they got, a Brandon Prest or even the George Peros experiment. But I don't know. It's kind of been in the Canadiens' DNA in the last few years that they don't have that guy that will come up and just stick up for their teammate no matter how big or how small or what kind of hit's been happening.
Well, they put their tail between their legs and go the other way? That's what they do.
Well, after the game the other night, Max Pacioretty saying, the last 10 games we've been so much better, playing better. Well, they're like 4-4-2, like a 500
we're
team.
Playing better.
That's still not good enough to make the playoffs.
Yeah, we're playing better.
To step up.
It's the process.
The process.
The process.
Can you think of any quick fix to get the Habs on track for a rebuild or towards a Stanley Cup or do you think the next few seasons they're just going to be repeats of this season?
Oh, quick fix. There's no quick fix. This honestly, where this team is right now, I don't care Price and goal, even with Weber back, they need to rebuild, not retool. They need to rebuild. This team is, I can't believe where it is right now, and it's a shame because it is such a great organization. It seems like they've just, it's falling apart.
They're right where the Leafs were years ago, right?
Yeah.
They're where the Leafs, they have no prospects really on the farm. Nikita Scherbak, I was at the Laval game the other night. He looked okay. He's not standing out like a superstar. They got older guys with big contracts, Price and Weber. How do you fix this? It's like you said, it's like they're going to have to do what the Leafs did. They're just going to have to tear it all apart and rebuild it. And that's where I wonder how they can do that with Marc Bergevin, because for him to trade Weber, then he has to admit he made a mistake trading PK. For him to get rid of these guys, he has to admit he made a mistake getting them or the deals he did. Whereas if a new guy comes in, it's not my problem. I didn't it's the other guy's mistakes. I'm coming in to start fresh. So I think that's part of the thing. And Marc Bergevin has already also shown how stubborn he can be, sticking with the people that he brought in. And I just don't know how he can clear out the mess that he did, because then he's admitting he screwed up.
And I think if they do have someone in place that's ready to do a proper rebuild with this team, well, then the fans have to get ready for some tough years and just sit through it for them to accumulate some prospects that will eventually turn into something and not be, remember that first round pick that we traded away and now he's no longer playing in the league anymore. And I think fans can do that. The idea that they say, fans won't take this in the city of Montreal, well, mediocrity is not anything better. You might as well have a few bad years, then build yourself up, and then have a proper base and a proper hockey team that you can cheer for years to come.
You have to manage the assets, and I don't think the assets they've had have been managed well here. And you look at, Bollier, Tenori, what's going on with Galchenyuk, even Drouin.
McCarron as well.
Playing at center, McCarron.
Daniel Carr, healthy scratch, 10 games in a row.
It's about managing the people. And you might have issues with certain people, and maybe they obviously had issues with PK, but was there a way you could have managed that? Is there a way, if you didn't like the brashness, the loudness, is there a way you could have toned that down and work with someone like that? Is there a way you could have managed the situation with Markov and Radulov better? Is there a way you could have managed the Cassian thing better? Like maybe had somebody alongside this kid as he's struggling to stay sober? on a daily basis. You know, they kind of left him out there alone, and you know, he went off running again. So, you know, you're a general manager. It comes down to managing people and managing those situations, and I think that's one of the areas. Forget about the trades and this and that. That's one of the areas I think they're really weak at, is managing people. Like you said, the stubbornness, my way or the highway, see you later.
Take it or leave it.
You play this, you're not a center anymore, you're a wing because...
First come, first serve.
Yeah,
yeah, it hurt them.
Do you think if Carey Price had been at his best all season, we'd be having a different conversation? The team would actually be competing, or maybe in the playoff spot? No,
I don't think they'd be as far out of the playoffs as they are right now, but his start definitely put them in a hole. But I still don't think they have the pieces to be a playoff team when you look at it. Even if he played the regular Carey Price hockey, you can't stand on your head every night, game in and game out, and say, listen, I have to either have a shutout or only allow one goal every night. You just can't do it. It wears on you after a while. I think that's one of the things that got to him this year, among probably some others, but like chronic fatigue. That would make you chronically fatigued if you had to do that every night. I don't think they have the team in front of them to make the playoffs. You know, you could put any goalie in there.
I think it would have just been a Band-Aid at the beginning if Carey Price was able to steal a few games. But as Chris said, he couldn't keep that up for the entire year, and then things would slowly start to unravel. But I don't think if Carey Price got off to a better start that this team would be in the playoff picture and everything would be completely different with this team.
I think they'd be battling for the 8th spot, maybe get in and then get bounced in the first round. I think it's about 18 or 19 games now the Canadiens have scored 1 goal or less this season. So it's like almost a half of the games. Yeah. So if your goalie lets in 2 goals, you lose. That's basically the way it is.
So he could have stood on his head and they'd still be out.
They might have won 2 or 3 more games, which would put them closer, but they're not good enough.
So if you suddenly became the Habs GM, what would your first move be if you had to do a rebuild?
Shopping Carey Price.
Oh, yeah?
I would talk with him and see if he's willing to give up his no-trade clause or if there's certain teams he will go to. And I just think he's going to bring – that contract is going to weigh so heavily on this team moving forward. He's going to be like 37 years old, making $10.5 million a year. He's not going to get better. He's at this – no athlete gets better after 31 unless you're Roger Clemens doing steroids or whatever he was doing to keep his career going. But I just think that you've got to – like we were mentioning earlier with Toronto, you got to get rid of your big guys. You got to try and let's see what I can get for Carey Price. Let's see what I can get for Shea Weber, because it's going to be a long rebuild. These guys are older, and they're not going to help you down the road. I mean, the Shea Weber trade was done for the present, not the future. I mean, he's older than PK Subban. They made that trade to win now. It hasn't worked. So I'd be shopping those 2 guys around.
So would I.
Some goalies though can really do well and excel in their 30s. Like Dominic Hasek comes to mind. Do you think he can?
Yeah, he can still play at that. But if you want to rebuild, talking about if you're rebuilding. You know, you got to get those assets and get those young players and get good draft picks and work with them and develop them. They don't have anybody in the system. Like it's Nikita Sherbak and Noah Juleson. Yeah. You know, and everybody's praying that Ryan Poehling leaves college so they can have a sentiment.
Yeah. But Carey Price on a good team does score 3 goals a game. Now he's effective again. You know, if Carey Price lets in 2 goals, your team's going to win. But here they've never won anything with Carey Price. As good as he's played here, they've never won anything. It's time to take another chapter. You know, they've been rebuilding from the goal out. Maybe it's time to rebuild down the middle. Yeah,
and the thing that they say, if you want to get something good, you got to give up something good. So if you think the answer is by trading, I don't know, Carl Alsner, you're not getting anything back that's going to help you in the future. No. So as Stu said, like Carey Price and Shea Weber and like Max Pacioretty are the 3 that will give you stuff for the future, but not right now. Okay.
First move, Chris? What's your first move?
Price, yeah. Thing is, first move, I would have everybody on the market. I would say everybody is available. I wouldn't want to put Gallagher, obviously, but I'd say everybody's available. Call me. I'm taking calls. And start to, you know, if you're going to redo it, do it right. And get those assets and rebuild. And hopefully your scouts and your organization has done their homework and done their job, and you pick good players and the players you need. obviously center ice has been a problem here since I've been here in 2011 and before that. And they still don't have a centerman. I go back to Serge Chavard when he got Bobby Smith. If he didn't get Bobby Smith, that big centerman, and you know, I heard him say that once. I'm like, really? And then I really thought of it, and I said, you know what? Big Bobby Smith was such a key part of our Stanley Cup in '86. And it was so true.
I agree with you keeping Gallagher, because if you want some guy to be the leader of this team going forward, lead by example, on the ice, off the ice, the guy who's so proud to be a member of the Canadiens, and that's the guy you want to be leading these guys going forward.
Yeah, the young guys.
Would the team be in a different position if they would have made Gallagher the captain instead of Pacioretty?
Too young at the time, Gallagher. Yeah, he was too young at the time to make captain. And it was his teammates that made Pacioretty captain, not anybody else.
That's right. People forget it was a vote. And it was so either that's one of the problems when you let players vote. It becomes a popularity contest. So.
Okay, that is our show for this week. We want to thank you all for tuning in. Does the general manager of the Canadiens need to know how to speak French? Let us know in the comment section below. I'm Adam Susser, and we'll see you back here next Thursday.